Hi there, Viejo Charlie here with my YouTube channel, and this will be lesson number 2 of the basic beginner learning sequence. I'll have some links here for lesson 1 in case you haven't taken it at the end of the video. But in this lesson we will actually learn the D7 chord and how to play the song Guantanamera, including the rhythm pattern for it. Okay. This lesson assumes that you know how to play the G and the C chords and that you're comfortable moving back and forth between one and the other. Again, if you have taken the 4 parts of lesson 1, then you would definitely be ready for this lesson 2. All right, so the D7th chord is just a variation of the D chord that we learned in lesson 1, which has a D, an A, a D, and an F sharp. And we can play from the 5th string down. Sounds better if we play it from the 4th string down because it gives us a root. But to make it into a D7th, we're going to change the 2nd D and use the 7th note of the scale. So we need to drop this D down 2 steps to the C, which is on the 2nd string, the B string on the 1st fret, right? So that will give us a C. We're going to change the fingering a little bit from our D chord. We're going to use finger number 1 on the B string on the 1st fret to give us that C. And then our finger number 2 is going to remain on the G string on the 2nd fret, which will give us that A. And our ring finger number 3 will play the high string on the 2nd fret, holding that F sharp. Right? So that gives us that 7th sound. So the D chord, the D7. Okay, so practice and make sure that you get a nice clean sound out of the D, which is the root, the A, the C now, which is the 7th, and our F sharp to get that D7th chord, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure that it sounds clear, sounds clean. Practice it, and again, remember that your D chord in the 7th is just dropping that 2nd D down to a C note, okay? So that makes up the D7th chord. All right? All right, so that D7th should sound nice and clean, and we're now going to go ahead and integrate it into the practice with the C and the G. We're going to practice the way that Guantanamera is actually played, which is 1 measure of 4 beats on the G. So when we're doing the, that is 4 beats, right? That's 4 beats, 1 measure on the G. We're going to do the same thing on the C. It's another 4 beats, 1 measure. And then when we get to the D7th, we're going to do 2 measures. So that's 8 beats, right? So it's all right. So again, 1 measure, 4 beats on the G, 1 measure, 4 beats on the C, and 2 measures or 8 beats on the D7th. Okay, so let's practice that. Ensure that your chords are sounding clean. Slow it down if you need to until you get smooth transitions between the chords and clean sounds on all of them. I'm assuming by now you have practiced a practice routine that incorporates somewhere around 30-45 minutes per day. Probably no more than that until you have calluses. The Cuban song rhythm is obviously intricate and is accentuated by the percussion and also where other instruments accentuate the beats, right? So we're going to try to replicate what is called Guajira song, which is peasant song, Cuban song, with a very simple pattern that should allow you to play the song by yourself. And as I said, it's going to be 1 down, 1 up, 1 muted down, and then 1 slight hook up, right? Okay, so very simple. Okay, so as I mentioned, the Guajiro song that we're going to approximate here in how to play the song, we will do one measure on the G, 4 beats, right? And then one measure on the C, 4 beats, and then 2 measures on the D7, 8 beats. Also, just to note, when we get to the hook, which will go from the D7 to a C, right? We're going to do 2 measures on that again, and that's the hook is the part of the song where Guantanamera, Guantanamera. So that's that hook. We go back from the D7 to the C. Again, we're going to do 2 measures there, 8 beats. Come back to the D7th for 2 measures, 8 beats, and then we go back to the pattern of 1 measure, 4 beats on the G, 1 measure, 4 beats on the C, and 2 measures or 8 beats on the D7th, okay? So let's get into that, practice that part of it, and yeah. So again, slowly. Pause the video if you need to practice this and slow it down. I'm going to give you an indication of how this song ultimately needs to play. It should be playing at 104 BPM. And in case you guys haven't done it, please do get a metronome. This is a downloaded app that does a metronome. But please do get used to practicing with the metronome and staying on time with it. This is very, very important, critical if you're ever going to play with anyone else, or just simply to sound good, right? So this is what the song should sound like at 104 BPM. And hopefully you guys can hear the metronome right there. One, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, but for the practice, we're going to go ahead and slow it down. And so this will be at 92 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. C7, G, C, D7, G, C, D7. All right, so hopefully you are able to stay on beat. Again, stop the video, pause it, get your metronome out, and if you need to slow it down slower than 92 beats, let's go ahead and bring it down to maybe an 88. Okay. And then practice it at a slower tempo. Right, so that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that is basically what the verses and part of the chorus of the song are going to do. The most critical part of the song, the hook, is actually that Guantanamera, and for that, instead of following this pattern, we're going to finish on the D7, and we're going to jump into the C, right? And so you hear it right there. Right? So that jump right there, but we're going to keep the same rhythm. It all stays the same. And then we go back into the regular pattern, right? So it only does that for that hook, for the Guantanamera, Guajira Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira Guantanamera. Okay, so you hear that. So the song for that, the hook part, we're going to jump from the D7 to the C, keeping the same pattern, the same beat, right? So it's going to come in from the regular pattern of. And right there, we're going to jump to the C, Guantanamera, but we go back to the other pattern to finish out that chorus, right? So Guantanamera, Guajira Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira Guantanamera. Okay, so the pattern for the verses and half of or most of the chorus is the same, with the exception that we start the chorus with the hook of a C, right? So again, we're coming in from our regular pattern. Guantanamera, Guajira Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira Guantanamera, right? And so that D7th is always those two rounds of that pattern, right? It's two rounds of that. Same thing when we jump to the C for the Guantanamera. Okay, it's gonna do two rounds in there as well. Okay, so when we jump to the C, we're going to do two rounds of the pattern, right? Right? So that is sort of how we're going to apply that. So one full pattern here in the G, one full pattern in the C, two patterns in the D7th, and then when we jump to the C for the hook, we're going to do two patterns there as well, okay? palma. Yo soy un hombre sincero, de donde crece la palma, y antes de morir me quiero echar mis versos del alma. Guantanamera, Guajira Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira Guantanamera. All right, so slow that down. Play with it. Hopefully you can get up to the 104 BPM, right? So we're going to hear that as to how it should sound at 104. Again, I can't stress enough, I don't want that. I can't stress enough how important it is to practice with the metronome to really develop the feel for a song and how it should sound. And so here goes at 104 BPM. So it's quite a bit faster, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yo soy un hombre sincero, de donde crece la palma. Yo soy un hombre sincero, de donde crece la palma. Antes de morir me quiero echar mis versos del alma. Guantanamera, Guajira Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira Guantanamera. Right? To 104 BPM. That is where you guys need to get to. So again, slow it down, and I don't care how slow it goes, just so long as you get the feel for it. All right, so that in essence is the lesson to learn to play Guantanamera. As you practice, stay focused on playing clean chords, transitioning smoothly and staying in time. Practice the rhythm pattern and putting a bit of a Cuban flavor to it, right? Just a little, don't try to incorporate a little. Listen to the original song, many of the Cuban versions of it. Anyhow, I'm now working on lesson 3, in which we'll learn a couple new chords and additional rhythms. Keep practicing and speeding it up to 102 BPM, which is the original song. And most of anything else, have fun practicing. And again, limit your practices to the point that your fingers are building calluses and not hurting. If you like this lesson, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so that you get additional content, additional lessons. And remember, have fun while you're learning. All right? See you guys later.